taxpayer, and one of the main issues was to be able to use advertising. So in keeping with that theme, and just to say to Councillor Kim, I have asked for amendment to the motion to remove the word priority and use the words that you used, special consideration, strong consideration. I think that sends the message we want to take care of our sports groups, but I also think it sends the message that we want to take care of the taxpayer.
Other speakers to the amendment?
Could I have a second for it?
Do I have a second for it? It's already been seconded.
John, thank you.
Councillor Peary, Councillor Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, I'll be voting against this amendment. I think we do need to set the priority for the sports groups to move forward with this. Mr. Downey has indicated to us that he's able to recoup the pricing by moving the advertising to another location. So this $15,000 that we're talking about, if you look at the cost benefit of what we'd be giving up by maybe you know, not allowing this to go forward because we want more advertising. Like Councillor Thompson had stated, we do send a very strong message of what Aurora looks like. The inside of our facilities don't match what's going on at the exterior and throughout town. So I think it's important that we do place priority on ensuring that our facilities look great on the inside. So I'll be voting against this.
Councillor Tom.
I'll support the amendment because I believe there is a difference between priority and strong consideration. I think that it gives us more leeway to build the strategy we want. So I'll say this. I'm happy to give strong consideration and in fact make the lobby areas of all of our arena facilities for the sport organization. But we have not, we don't have a strategy for arena advertising right now. We have a part-time guy who's doing it part-time. And so if we're going to create a strategy to increase revenues, we might decide as a council that we were not going to advertise anymore in the lobbies and we're going to only make artistic representations for the sport organizations, for all the lobbies of all our facilities. And that's great.
Point of order, the motion speaks specifically to the Stronach Aurora Recreation Complex. It doesn't speak to any other facility.
Okay, so what I'm saying then, Councillor Peary, is that why not include all of the facilities? I mean, why is the SARC the only one? And this is what, the reason I'm saying this is because I think that if we're going to come up with a strategy, it has to be consistent across all of our town facilities. Now, I'm happy to give strong consideration to the sport groups, and that satisfies my concerns with the original motion, but, you know, so I'll support the amendment, I guess.
Other speakers to the amendment, please. Calling the vote on the amendment. The amendment is to change the wording. Madam Clerk, could you read it because it required a bit of wordsmithing?
Yep, so we just added a couple words because by taking priority out, it didn't make sense. So it would be that sport organizations be given strong consideration in relation to use of the lobby wall areas of the Stronach Aurora Recreation Complex SARC over sponsorship.
Okay. Calling the vote then on the, Councillor Maracas.
I just want to say I'll support the motion, the amendment, just so we can move this along. Thank you.
Calling the vote on the amendment, please. All in favor, hands high. Contrary? It's carried. Back to the main motion, Councillor. Tom. Okay. Any other speakers on the main motion? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through you to our CAO. Does the motion as it stands, and having heard the discussion, give staff enough direction with regards to how they're going to implement this change in policy?
Mr. CAO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't see this as a direction for a change in policy. I see this as a direction to engage a consultant to come up with the full facility advertising and sponsorship program, and that as part of that, consideration will be given to priority use of the lobby areas for sport groups. So I don't see this as a change in policy. I see this as a method of exploring whether a change of policy would be considered by council.
So just to be clear, then you don't see any action being taken in 2016 with regards to the Stronach? complex until after we've gone through the budget process and made a decision on whether or not to hire a consultant?
Through you, Mr. Chair, since much of that advertising is 6 and 12-month terms, I don't think anything was possible anyway, so I don't think that will conflict with the direction given here.
Councillor?
Okay.
Calling the vote on the motion as amended then. All in favor? Contrary? That's carried, Madam Clerk. Councillor Abel, your motion's on the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I want to thank council for bringing this forward. Thank our delegate. This is a great moment. It reminds me of where were you when
Could you put the motion on the
Canada...
floor first, please?
I'll just move it as is, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry, have you moved it? Okay, a second, please. Councillor Humphries? Floor is yours.
Yeah, so, there's iconic moments when people will remember where they were. I'm dating myself, but I remember where I was in 1967. I was at the City Hall celebrating Canada's 100th, Canada-Russia series, and Man on the Moon, Joe Carter's home run, Mike Weir when he won the Masters. So this will be one of those moments, where were you when the hit were playing? And a lot of people will be saying, well, we watched it at home or we watched it at the town park. It's just going to be... it should be just a great event. It's something that was running. It came to my attention during an evening when the tickets, everyone was expressing frustration back in mid-June. Mr. Smith said he started a Facebook page for CBC to cover it. And as it became apparent by the end of June that CBC was going to carry, I contacted them and they said, well, they couldn't firm anything up. And then I said, well, we better put a permit or something on the town park, because that's a perfect place to do it. Once it became confirmed, I came to Mr. Mayor and our CAO to say this is a great idea. I did talk to Councillor Maracas prior to that meeting, saying that things have been moving in that direction. He thought it was a great idea. By now, the momentum across the nation has taken on a whole different meaning as to this great event, and I'm very pleased to be bringing this forward. We have a great collaboration. Today it's been amazing. We've had Sport Aurora here. Aurora, the town, partners with them. The Legion came forward. The town is working with them as well. So we have great community partners, and again, when we go around to these partners to express these ideas and ask if they would like to collaborate and work in a community effort, they step up time and time again. So this is a music event. It should be a town event. It was always intended to be a town event. I came to the mayor and said this would be a great town event. I didn't put it in the wording, but I think that's something we should add in. Maybe someone might bring that forward. I also think it's key that we have some communication going out. It seems a shame that we have a whole staff here and we could at least put it on our social networking and do some advertising. It is in our town park. It's no different than many of the other things that we do in partnership. So it's a natural. The band shell will have a large screen. It'll look like a TV set, and it will have a good sound system. A lot of activity. We're going to have. We have a short time window, but so does all the other communities across Canada, and they're all going forward, and they're all working with their municipalities. They're all partnering with it. So I would appreciate that we move forward on this so that we can get working on this.
Other speakers to the motion, please. Councillor Peary, Councillor Humphries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess my question is, who are we giving the money to? I know what we're giving the money for, but who is the group, who is the organization who's fronting this? Is it an individual? I just want to know who is the funding going to?
Councillor Abel.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if the town was to take this upon it, there wouldn't be any transfer money, but in lieu, that would be identified at this time, it would be the Aurora Winter Blues Festival. It's in the recitals. It doesn't say that they get the check, but it does say they are taking on and identified as a group, volunteer group that's come forward.
Councillor Pearce? Councillor Humphries?
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor. Absolutely support this and can't wait to move forward. Just, is there any reason why, can we add that the town take this on? I know it's a short time frame, but we should have all hands on deck and let's make this an event to remember. It's going to be successful on its own. We layer on our communication expertise and our park support and some of our highly talented individuals in our special events focus area. You know, if I'd like to add an amendment to add that the town take this on. I don't under,
Just
sorry,
let's
if that's
get-
okay.
Let's get the wording. You good with wording? Madam Clerk?
You can add that to, do you want to add to one of the resolutions at the end here?
Is there a second? Councillor Tom, seconding it. Speakers to the amendment. Councillor Humphries?
Sorry, through
Oh,
Mr.
hold on,
Mayor.
I'm just going to get, just to make sure that we're clear with the wording. Once the clerk has finished writing this out. Okay. Clerk is working on the wording, excuse. Councillor Humphries?
Through Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure if you hear that echo, but yeah, you know, I think we have the expertise. Actually, I know we have the expertise, and the asks are really everything that we'd normally do. I know it's an absolutely huge layer of work for town staff. It's an unexpected event, but you know, we've got the formula, we've got the support, we've got the expertise. I think let's do this, and it's a really amazing. I know it'll be an amazing event for all the residents to enjoy, and I think it will eliminate some of the handling of funds and sort of the last minute teams that are groups that are, you know, want to make this happen and make it a success. So I just like for us to take it on and just go for it full steam ahead with all types of strong communication boards, all the electronic digital boards we have out there, signage, social media, Twitter. Maybe each councillor can start tweeting it out, and I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I think it's a separate clause. I'm sorry, I was trying to organize the wording with the clerk. I apologize, Councillor Humphries, I missed that.
I'm just pushing down and do it.
Yep. Just, the speakers to the amendment, please. I had Councillor Maracus, Thompson, Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess through you to Mr. CAO, I think. I think it'd be great if the town took this on, but how would that change this motion?
Mr. CAO?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure what wording the clerk is going to propose, but I suppose the funding is approved. I guess it would just be a note that the town was to put this event on.
Okay, I'm going to go to the clerk.
So I think we could add it to the third last paragraph. Now therefore be it hereby resolved that the town of Aurora endorse the town park live concert screening of the Tragically Hip as a national celebration as an event of municipal significance and endorse the event as a town event.
Can you speak closer to the mic?
So we are, when I hear that, it just sounds like we're just endorsing it. We're not necessarily, my understanding from what Councillor Humphries is saying is that the town take this on and run this. And I'm just going by what Councillor Humphries, that's what it sounded like to me, which her intentions was. But what I'm hearing from the wording from our clerk is that it sounds like we're just endorsing it. So I'm not clear of what's happening here.
Okay, we need a minute here to close it on the wording.
As an event of municipal significance and, you have to say endorse and that the event be held.
excuse me, the clerk is going to read the amendment. Could we pay attention, please?
So as part of that clause that I just read out, the third last clause, we would, at the end where it says an event of municipal significance, and that the event proceed as a town-run event.
Councillor Humphries?
Hey, Mr. Mayor, similar, very in line with that is in terms of how we work with other communities. Can we not just have all, sorry, maybe Councillor Abel wants to clarify. My understanding of what I was thinking in terms of what I've heard tonight is that we have very competent groups that are ready to step up and do the work to oversee, but it looks like there's a lot of work that's required from our town, including all the normal things that we're providing. But maybe Councillor Abel wants some clear. If you don't agree with it, go ahead, please.
Well, excuse me, but I'm running the meeting, okay? Councillor Humphries, you're the one who put the amendment on the floor.
Yes,
You wanted a town-run event.
yes.
That's
But
what
that's not-
Councillor Humphries said.
If
that
that's
not
not
what
what you want, then
Councillor
you can
Excuse me.
vote against it.
Is that not what Councillor Humphries was asking? Did I misunderstand?
That is what I understood your request to
So
be.
the amendment is that it's a town-run event. Is there a second for Councillor Humphries' amendment? That's the question.
There was a seconder. Jeff.
Councillor Tom? Are you? Okay, so that's, the amendment's on the floor, is that it is a town-run event. Councillor Maracus? Sorry, that's the amendment's on the floor. That's what we're discussing. Councillor Maracus and Councillor Thompson.
Okay, so, I mean, we're at a point, I mean, this is all very confusing because I mean, if we go back and we look at the history here, I mean, we received that this was going to be a town event, and then it's not a town event, and now we're looking to make it a town event again. So I'm confused at how we are where we are right now. And maybe we can get a better explanation. I think that would be great.
Councillor Thompson, to the amendment.
Well, to the amendment, I'd like to understand what a town-run event means. When I read the notice of motion before us, I mean, it talks about getting liability insurance. It talks about an upset limit to the budget for different aspects. I mean, it substantially changes the motion in front of us. So when we say a town-run event, that means the town, occurs all costs. What happens to the volunteer groups that have already offered? Are they also going to be included? I'd like to get a little bit more details about how staff see this proceeding as a town-run event before we vote.
I'll go to the
So
CEO.
I will.
Through Mr. Mayor, it's unclear to me, frankly, how this would be done as a completely town-run event. That was never the intent of Councillor Abel. He didn't want it to be a town-run event. He wanted it to be a cooperative event. The challenges started occurring when, number one, we couldn't find a screen within a reasonable budget, and so we were trying to source a different screen, and there were various alternatives that came forward. And I think if I were to sum up the whole thing, perhaps Councillor Abel and his group felt that time was running out and that they needed to move forward on their own without the burden of the kind of questions we were raising. We raised a few other concerns, nothing that was a stop in our mind. We have 2 large tournaments that weekend, so we have a shortage of tables and garbage cans. To the point that was made in the regard to the delegation, we were some concerned about actually a larger crowd and then showing up and having 10 tables there for 5,000 people. So there was those kinds of things that we raised, we just wanted to put on the table. And I think that they were probably interpreted as spokes in the wheel, if you will. So we tried to just focus on the actual video production itself, video streaming itself as a town event, and leave the rest to the committee that's come forward and wants to make this a larger event. We thought we could sort of handle that piece, and but through the various to and fro of the communication, the group decided that they wanted to proceed without the town's involvement. And since the permit was taken by another group in the first place, and we had permitted the park to Councillor Abel, that was his prerogative to decide to run it on his own or with the group. And so as of, I guess, last, I think Tuesday, Councillor Abel, I think it was, we stepped back at Councillor Abel's request.
I've got Councillor Abel, Councillor well, back to Councillor Thompson.
So again, through you to Mr. Nadarozny, if I understand your explanation correct, you're saying that it'd be difficult to do as a town-run event, and you would prefer to do it as Councillor Abel intended, a collaborative effort?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, not to split hairs, but I think that the question is, what is the event? And that's what we were trying to nail down. If the event is a screening of the Tragically Hip concert, we were arranging cable feeds, we were trying to find a screen, we were ready to do that. It started mushrooming a bit. At one point there was a plan for a beer garden, other events that we thought there was going to be some more challenges. In an attempt to see both things go forward so that I could get staff working on part of it, we tried to separate the actual viewing of the concert from the other activities, and all the while still trying to source a screen, I might add, because the screen that we use for movies in the park was not available. There's a high demand on these screens for this day, as you can imagine, and so our costs went from what movies in the park, I believe, is in the order of $1,200, I think, for the screen and sound system for that. And the first quote we got was in the neighborhood of $7,000 for a similar, not the same, but a similar screen and sound system. And so that's where things started getting complicated. But we could certainly try to take on the screening portion without, because I don't think there's much in the way of variance. I mean, that's pretty straightforward, a big screen and a good sound system, and get a cable feed and make sure that it can run from 8:30 to 11:30. And the other activities, that's where I get concerned about what is the event that we're putting on, because that was a subject of most of the confusion, I'll call it.
Thank you. I'll save my other comments for when we get back to the main motion.
I've got Councillor Abel, Councillor Gartner, and Councillor Humphries.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the time. The whole idea was to make it a town event, just like every other municipality. It never was anything different. There are other activities going on. We work in partnership. I mean, we've seen that demonstrated. We have a great group here that can put a video and a sound system with some local bands together. You set a budget and you go to it. It's very simple. What I basically did is, because we got stuck in the 1 week period, things were not moving, and we got. I wasn't hung up, but there was a hang up on a screen. When we met on the Tuesday, there was only one quote brought forward. I thought that was kind of, for a week, we wasted a lot of time. The idea was, and the mayor asked me to right away give some sort of duties, what would be done. I said, well, the town would be doing communication, providing service in kind. The community group would assemble volunteers, put the stage together, put the screen up. There we go. We don't need anything more. It's just like a concert in the park. We don't need any more tables or anything else like that. The concert, I mean, you've got the farmer's market with events going on with the corn roast. You've got the doors open. You don't have to take anything away. You don't have to bring anything else in. We're not asking for any of that. We were asking for fencing for a beer garden. We needed to get a letter and application in right away. There was some misunderstanding. I copied the mayor. I copied the CAO to request that letter be brought forward because it had to be put in as soon as possible. There was no communication back to me. It was not done. So we're not having a beer garden because we can't do it anymore. The whole idea is, just like we do with every other, we've seen community, volunteers. There are people that get together to help and assist the town. And that's all this is. It's very simple. It doesn't have to be a town-run event. It has to be an event of significance that the town is going to partner, just like it does for everything else. So when we take away that town-run event and say it's an event that the town is going to collaborate with, that's very simply the amendment. And when you say that, then we can open it up and ask our communications, can you just put something together for this event? We have them employed. It's not exhaustive. We're not asking to drop everything. Just put a couple of things together and work it just like we do with everything else in the town. It's very simple. I don't want to get into it is a town-run event. That was the problem we had before. When I came to the meeting, we could not move past that phrase. If it's a town-run event, then they will get the screen. And we stopped. and they got stopped with one quote, and there was no other way to move forward. There are lots of screens available. There's, you know, the screen wasn't an issue for our group, for any group putting this together. Nor is the sound system, nor is putting a local band together. What we had to do was put the application in, get a strategy for communication, and do some of the logistics. And the logistics would have all been done. There was no challenge. The logistics were going to be done by the community, the volunteers, and it's really quite simple. But seeing that we couldn't get there, I said, well, we'll just move along. It wasn't my choice. It was not, but I just realized that with all the time that we had put in on this, we weren't doing anything. So I said we would move it along forward and ask council, give you a budget, give you some of the logistics, and make it still a great event for our community. We have a responsibility to bring items like this. These are sort of important ideas, events that are going forward. All the other municipalities are doing it. So what would be our responsibility? Our council would say, you know what, we'll do the same. What is the budget? I spelled it out. Does it seem we're paying for insurance twice? We are. Could we use some communication help? We sure could. And it would be just great if we could just work together on it, and rather not get into, if it's a town-run event, then this town is going to do it this way this time. Work with your community, and they're right here. So it's a pleasure to move this forward. Really, Councillor Humphreys, I'm just asking that the town put some communication into it. Very simply, they do not have to do anything else, and just work with us here. They are bringing forward the cable, which is great, and I thank Mr. Nadarosny for following through on that, following through on the noise bylaw. It would have been great had we had a beer garden, but it's not essential. If anyone wants to watch and have a beer, they can go to a bar or go home. This will be a family, great community event. It's still going to be very successful, and it'll be a lot of fun.
Councillor Gardner.
Yes, Humphreys.
No, Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
This is to the amendment, by the way.
I know, to the amendment. Although I didn't know that a councillor could permit out the town park. That's interesting information. To the amendment, I think that a lot of people, many of them actually sitting in this audience, have done a lot of work towards trying to organize this. And sorry, Councillor Humphreys, but I don't think that we can call it a town event, because I don't think it is an event that's being put on by the town. The only thing that I would ask is that we have a financial accounting for the money that goes towards this event.
To the amendment. Any other speakers for the first time? Okay, Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Councillor Humphreys was trying to collaborate with Councillor Abel, and so I think now that Councillor Abel has clarified his position, I will not vote for the amendment, and you know, someone can re-amend that to a different word, but I will not be for the amendment.
Okay, well, I've got some comments because I was involved in most of the email chains, and I can go to Mr. Nadarosny, who's got even more comments because he was involved in all the emails. So this is what I was doing the last couple of days over at the cottage, reading through a whole string of emails. To suggest that things are not moving implies that staff was not doing anything, and that is just plain wrong. Our IT staff were working on it, our communication staff were working on it, our park staff were working on it. Mr. Nadarosny put a lot of time in this. We have certain criteria that we have to meet, that the town has to meet in order to move forward with the project. It may not fit what outside people would like to do, but there's criteria that we have to follow. There's a comment made in the beer garden and no feedback. My understanding is the clerk got back to Councillor Abel. No, I'm sorry, I take that back then. The beer garden falls under the municipal alcohol policy. The municipal alcohol policy requires that the town put forward a resolution that this is a, what's the wording, an event of, a significant municipal event. So that requires, that is in our town municipal alcohol policy, which was brought forward, I think, in 2011. So I think that needs to be made very clear. When Councillor Abel first contacted me by text message, actually, talked about the tragically hip, then I met him at the farmer's market on the 23rd, on the Saturday, and the comment he made was that it would be a council event similar to, say, a councillor barbecue, and he referenced a barbecue that he went to for a councillor in Richmond Hill. I thought that sounded like a great idea. And we met on Monday with the CIO, and then after that, Councillor Abel forwarded me a number of emails that he had in exchange with the CBC. The day after that, Mr. Natarosny put together a pretty extensive list. Well, there's rumors out there that the town seems to be dragging its feet, that the town has put roadblocks into this, and that is just not the case. I'm supportive of the project. I'm supportive of a rebroadcast. I think it's a great idea. But I think we need to understand fully that town staff have worked extremely hard in putting this together. And I think it's incredibly unfair to brand town staff as not doing anything. Back to the, I will stop.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to call question of privilege.
Well, I've got all the emails here if anybody would like to read them. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I apologize. I had no idea this was going to go this way. I was truly trying to collaborate with the groups and hoping that the town would, I didn't know any of this background information, so I didn't hear the rumors, or maybe I'm really out of the loop. I've been away for a little bit, so my apologies. All I wanted to do was just to make sure that we can partner with the group, just like we do for the other groups that come forward. I think it's a great event, and I think whatever we can do to help is perfect. I'm going to withdraw my motion because I'm really sorry that I even brought it forward. I had no idea this was going to happen in this forum. All I, again, was hoping we could just partner with the groups that have done a great job already. So let's just go back to the original motion on the table, and if we can collaborate further with this group, that's perfect for me. My apologies, everybody.
Councillor Humphreys, thank you. Councillor Tom, you okay with that? So I have Councillor Abel, Councillor Peary, and Councillor Humphreys spoke first time around on the main motion. Speakers to the main motion, please. Councillor Marcus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm gathering from Councillor Abel that communications would be key for the town to put in, and I agree, and I think it would be very important for us to get that communication piece out there to let everyone know that we are doing this. I'm just wondering if that would fall under the services in kind, or do we need to specifically put that in there? Maybe through you to Mr. Natarosny.
Mr. Natarosny.
Through Mr. Mayor, that can be part of the services in kind to get some information out.
Thank you. And I know Councillor Abel brought up the noise bylaw. I just want to make sure, because the concert runs till 11:30, I believe. So are they going to be exempt from the noise bylaw?
Through you, Mr. Chair, initially we said we would take care of the exemption. As it turns out, when you look at the permitted event in the town park and all the other rules, we don't require an exemption in this situation.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Abel, for bringing this forward. I'm looking forward to the event, and I think the whole town's looking forward to it. From what I've heard from social media, everyone's pretty excited about it, and I think it's going to be a great turnout.
Other speakers, please. Councillor Peary, there would be a second time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I need clarification on this. I heard it mentioned once, sort of in passing. Councillor Gartner brought it up again. Who has the permit for the event at Town Park? Who's taken out the permit?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the permit is held by Councillor Abel since June 29th.
I hate to be a stickler like this, but we've got a member of council who's taken out a permit. Now, funds are being asked for an event that he's got the permit for. I don't feel comfortable with this. I don't think it's appropriate. I don't think that's the way that our process works, and things have typically worked in the past. You know, I think the event is a great idea. I think the event should move forward in some capacity, but if it's before us where one member of council has pulled out a permit, and now that councillor is bringing forward a motion asking that funds be allocated to help make that event a success, I just don't feel comfortable with that. So I'll be voting against this.
Other speakers on the motion, please. Councillor Thompson for first time, Councillor Gartner for the first time, Councillor Abel for the second time.
Thank you. I hope we don't lose the sight of the fact that this is a great opportunity. It's going to be a great event, and certainly it's going to be a great opportunity to bring the community together. So let's stay focused on that. We can certainly figure out the details or address some of the issues. And to the issue that raised by Councillor Perry, through you to Mr. Nadarosny, with regards to the money, it seems like it's really earmarked for two things. One is the sound system, the screen, and the second is the liability insurance. Is it possible not to have that billed straight to the town and paid through the town, so that there really is no real money exchanging hands to third-party groups, and it provides a little bit higher level of fiscal accountability to address some of the current concerns we've heard around the table? Because it seems to me the $5,500, I see $4,900 for a projector, technician, and sound system, and liability insurance. That would seem to me the only two requirements for the $5,500.
Mr. CEO.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I guess if the council directs that we pay the invoice for the $4,900 for the screen, that can be, we take that as direction. It's the same difference.
I just think it might address some of the issues that have come out. I just would like to see us move forward with it. I think that, you know, when I've seen other snippets from other municipalities, and it's been noted there's 80 of them, it's been, you know, quite a beaming moment for all of these municipalities. They talk about how great it is for their community, and yet here we are, you know, diving into these details. Let's try and get past this and focus on what a great opportunity this is for our community.
Councillor Gartner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of quick points before I get to my main point. If this money is going to the group, there should be a financial accounting for it, and that should be in a motion. On the second point that Councillor Perry makes, and to Councillor Abel, I mean, if the councillor is sitting at the table and is involved with something, in the last one was the Aurora Music Festival, if they're involved with something that there is a financial ask from council, I think that the councillors should just appropriately step away from the table when we make the vote, just to make sure there's no perceived conflict of interest. The third thing is, originally I was against this because, you know, I'm really tired of this council and the past council continuously waiving the procedural bylaw. The procedural bylaw is there to run a smooth meeting and to protect the public, and to protect the public in the sense that, in this case, with a notice of motion, it would give the public time to know that there was a notice of motion so that they could come here and voice their opinions when the motion was discussed. So by taking the notice of motion tonight and taking it to the motion state, it takes the public out of the loop, and I don't think that that is appropriate for council to do so often. Having said that, I think if the public was in this chamber, they would be very happy to know that this is something that was being planned for their enjoyment, and I will be voting for it. But again, there should be financial accounting if it doesn't come under the town's umbrella, and I do think that the councillor involved should move away from the table when the vote is taken.
Thank you, Councillor Gartner. Councillor Abel, I got you. Excellent list.
Well, just by way of explanation about the permit, back in June, I realized that we needed a venue, and I didn't want to have someone else come up and say they were going to have a birthday party, and then we'd have to deal with that. I fully intended to move with the town and let the town do it and not come before the notice of motion, but that wasn't working. So we ended up here, and yeah, I agree. Under the circumstances, I haven't asked for any money. I was going to pay for it myself. I was going to pay the $329 as my way of celebrating and bring it forward at no cost. That's not in anything. That was my full intention, was to pay that. I didn't ask for council. I didn't put it in this memo at all. The best thing would have been if the town was working with collaboration, and we wouldn't be talking about insurance, and we wouldn't be talking about the permit, but that didn't happen. So this is the way we'll have to go around. If you want me to step away for that simple reason, I don't agree, but I will.
Other speakers to the motion then?
Perhaps we could ask our, never mind.
I'm sorry? Our lawyer cannot provide legal advice. That's a personal decision, Councillor. If there's no further comments, we'll call the vote then. Councillor Humphreys, pardon me.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was one comment made by Councillor Thompson in terms of the town, instead of having funds flow through, that we can actually pick up the costs. $5,500, that covers the projector technician. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what I think we were asking for $5,500. Will that help alleviate some of the worries of going, we could just pick up the cost for the insurance? Is that possible? Councillor Thompson, you mentioned that earlier. Should we make it a formal motion here so that there's nothing to worry
Let me
about?
ask the CAO what he would take for, what direction he would require. Excuse me. Councillor, Mr. CAO.
So, to you, Mr. Mayor, you're approving the funding, and I guess I'm not quite sure what you're asking then, that the invoice come to us and we cover the, I mean, I guess we can do that, sure. I mean, but yes, we can certainly do that. I mean, it's just an invoice that's made out to the town for a projector. So if the council directs that we will cover the costs of the projection system as part of the $5,500, then we'll take that direction and we'll process it.
Councillor?
I'm happy. Sorry, there was a question about fiscal responsibility and following the trail of money. It just seemed to simplify things by having the invoices come to the town and pay it. And so, if we can move forward, I'll put that amendment forward. But if it opens up another long round of debate, I'll pull it out.
Mr. CAO.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the motion as written doesn't direct who the money is going to. So I guess in essence, if the council's approving the amount and by way of direction, you're asking us to cover the cost of the projection system, we'll take that as direction and we'll process the invoice.
Good enough for me.
You're good there? Councillor Humphreys? Yes. You're good? Okay. Calling the vote. All in favor? Contrary? Carried.
Could I have a recorded vote, please?
Madam Clerk?
Councillor Abel.
Yes.
Councillor Peary.
No.
Councillor Marakis.
Yes.
Councillor Kim.
Yes.
Councillor Gardner.
Yes.
Mayor Daw.
Yes.
Councillor Thompson.
Yes.
Councillor Tom.
Yes.
Councillor Humphreys.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We will go to item 2. Councillor Thompson, you pulled that. That is the interim operating budget forecast.
I'll move the motion as is.
Thank you. Second, please. Councillor Tom, thank you. Councillor Thompson.
I just wanted to make one point, and I had an opportunity to speak with the CIO with regards to it. You know, one of the challenges I have with the report is the way it's sort of presented. It may leave some people with an impression that the town's headed towards a deficit. And so I think it's important, not just for members of council, but for residents as well, to understand what the action going to be going forward is. It's my understanding that one of the things that we did over and above the cash to capital to bolster our reserves is that we also earmarked a large portion of our supplementary reserves to also go into the reserves. And so to offset that proposed deficit, we'll be reducing that amount to cover it. So we still will end up the year with a balanced book, but perhaps Mr. CAO, in the absence of Dan, could weigh in on that, just to be clear that we're not going to finish with a deficit.
Mr. CAO.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Thompson is correct. And I apologize for my part. I'm learning how the budgeting process works here and the phraseology that's used. But my understanding is that, in essence, last year was one of the first years that you did make this change from a budget approach. And rather than just sort of seeing what supplementals flowed in beyond the ones that you were actually budgeting for, you actually took a guess at that and actually budgeted for the supplementals to come into the reserves. And so because of the way that it was presented at budget and because of the way it's being done, which I think is frankly the right way to do it, it just appears to leave absolutely no room from an operating perspective. So as soon as there's any $1 deficit, you look like you're running a deficit, even though we know there's going to be surplus supplementary fees coming in. So this, we will maintain the focus of getting off the supplementary fees overall, and we'll look for a different way to present this in the next budget cycle, so that it's clear, and so that when we get to these interim reports, you get a clear snapshot of where we think we'll actually end up for the year on a net basis.
Thank you. And for those of us that sat on council last term, and we were familiar with some fairly high surpluses as a result of significant supplementaries, and so, you know, I understand the change that we've made, but I think it's important for us to communicate it out properly. Sometimes people just pick up one quick sound bite, and if I were to look at this, that word deficit would certainly pop out. So I think it's important that you know, the message gets improved upon. But I think it does, you know, underlie a significant issue for Aurora going forward, and that is, you know, we have a large reliance on supplementaries for us to balance our books, and we need to continue to look at changing our model as Aurora approaches build out. And so be it through the budget process or be it just through ELT and the FAC, I think it needs to be something that's on the horizon, and I'm glad that we're moving towards multi-year budgeting, because it's something that'll help us you know, address this issue as we go ahead.
Any other comments on this report? All in favor then? Contrary? Carried. Item 4, Councillor Kim, you pulled that. Word of tender IES 2016-43.
Yes, I'd like to put the report on the floor, please.
Second, please. Councillor Gartner, thank you. Councillor Kim.
Yes, I was just looking at the report, and on page 2 of the report, just something struck me. I'm just wondering whether this is kind of a new way of our methodology. So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Simonauskas, when it talks about reviewing the proposals, there is a weighting in the methodology, experience and qualification of the company, 25%, experience and qualification of personnel, 20%, and so forth, adding up to 100. So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Simonauskas, have we done this before in other RFPs, Mr. Simonauskas?
Mr. Simonauskas, please.
Certainly through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we do. Typically, you would look at each of these experience or qualification requirements and then rate each of the vendors. So in this case, we've actually provided some additional information in this report as to how that specific technical evaluation was broken out.
And Mr. Simonauskas, it talks about, so there are 2 finalists. Can you disclose what the points gathered was for the runner-up?
Mr. Simonauskas?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't actually know that information offhand, but I would rather have that information be delivered through procurement, as they're the overseers of the process, and if there is any disclosure of that information, I would rather have it come through procurement.
Okay. And my last question, I'm not sure if it's a typo or not, but on page 2, table A, it says below is a breakdown of prices submitted by the 5-year contract, 2010 to 2015, and it states 2.136 million for 2010 to 2015, and that was the amount that was the winning bid for the subsequent 5 years, or the new contract that's coming forward. And so I'm just wondering, it's a typo because on IES 11-004, or the last contract from 2010, that was RFP IES 2010-71, that winning bid amount was 1.883 million. And so that doesn't correlate with the 2.136 for the 2010-2015 that's indicated on table A. So if you can just clarify that, please.
To you, Mr. Mayor, just to clarify the question, you're referring to the previous award of this contract from a few years ago?
Yes, the table A seems to indicate that this is the contract amount from 2010 to 2015. Is that what is meant by table A?
Oh, through you, I see, yeah, through you, that's correct, that should be 2016 to 2020, yes.
Okay, so it looks like it's just a typo
correct,
then.
yes.
Okay, because as indicated, the previous contract was 1.883, so thanks for clarifying. Okay, that's all the questions I had.
Thank you. Any other comments on Councillor Gardner?
Just a quick comment. I was really disappointed that we only had one qualified bid. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Simonauskas. What is the reason for that?
Through Mr. Mayor, it's how the market responded. I mean, we did have a number, 11 firms that actually attended a mandatory site visit, and of those firms, only 2 chose to submit. So it's either maybe the scope was larger than they anticipated, or the work was different than they had expected. When we do have those site visits, that's when the vendors have an opportunity to ask questions and see exactly where we're going. I do know that each of the facilities were visited, so they could gather a sense of the scope, and after that visit, most clearly chose not to respond.
Thank you. Well, I would like to say that the company that we're using now, or at least the cleaners that we have on the ground, are doing a very good job. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. I apologize if this has already been asked, but have we ever looked at an N6 initiative for the cleaning and look to, work with our northern partners to try and reduce costs? Sorry, through you to Mr. Simonauskas.
Certainly through Mr. Mayor. We do a number of opportunities where we can partner with our N6 partners, whether it's through piggybacking on existing contracts. The cleaning contract, I know, for us, for scope development for this particular contract was fairly extensive because of the specific requirements of each facility. So I don't believe there were opportunities. I do know, though, however, that in developing the RFP for this assignment, we also looked at what services we could bring in-house and actually reduce the overall scope of the assignment. So we did try to find efficiencies in bringing some of that service in-house for our own staff to develop. But your point is well taken, and any opportunity we have to partner or leverage N6 initiatives, we do definitely get involved, and we are aware of what's happening within their market.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor of that? Contrary? It's carried. Item 5, Councillor Gardner, you pulled that, small cell technology?
I gotta step away. Jeff?
She's gone anyway.
She's gone.
I have to step away. Oh, you're not gonna talk about it? Okay.
Let's go to item 12, the hack meeting. Heritage Advisory Committee, sorry. Councillor Thompson pulled that.
I'll move it as is. I just had a quick question.
Thank you. Second? Councillor Tom, thank you. Councillor Thompson.
With regards to item 9, it's the committee added to the recommendations and asked that staff investigate options for potential legal action in respect to the demolition of the first floor of the house at 45 Mosley Street. I just wanted to know whether or not we were going to seek external legal report and if there's a cost associated with it. So I guess I'll direct that to our solicitor or to Mr. Ramono, whoever is best able to answer it.
Mr. Ramono.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, our solicitor is looking at it, and I will then, once I sit down with her, I'll be able to report back to the committee and council on the outcomes.
Councillor?
So just to be clear, so at this point, there's no cost associated with it. It's all being done in-house. Thank you.
Any other comments on the Heritage Advisory?
I wasn't here for the beginning part of that, but I would just like to say that this is a very important issue because what's happened is the Heritage Advisory Committee has approved something and to modify a building, but to leave it standing, and it turns out that the building is completely gone. And we can't let people do that. So it's a precedent. So we really need to follow this through. And even if it does cost money with external legal, I think it's something that we absolutely have to do.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Any other comments or questions? All in favor then? Contrary? That is carried. Councillor Gardner, item 5.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move it as is.
Thank you. Second, please. Councillor Kim.
And I have a deja vu here because I think I was speaking to it before when it was out of turn, but this is a fantastic opportunity, and probably Councillor Thompson knows more than I do, but this is a small cell technology for the town of Aurora to be doing a pilot project with Bell is, in my opinion, really exciting. It brings us in a little bit of money, but more than that, it just puts us on a cutting edge, and I'm very, very glad to see this.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions on the item? Councillor Kim.
You can stop me if this is out of scope, Mr. Mayor, but I recall a few months ago there was the joint cell phone tower going up on Bloomington and just west of Leslie. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Sivanauskas, I believe this technology was mentioned, but if you could just remind us again, could this technology be used for that corridor instead of having the larger or an extra cell phone tower go up in that area?
That goes to Mr. Ramono.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Aurelio is here. He's been working with Bell closely on this pilot project, so if I can ask him to step in.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in response to the question, small cell technology only applies to data. It doesn't apply to voice. So voice traffic needs to continue to run through traditional cell towers, but data traffic is really what Bell is trying to offset as its largest driver of growth on the network. So long term, their plan is to move away from investment in traditional cell tower technology and towards more small cell growth. And they've been driving investment both in fiber in the ground and in investing these types of installations in order to make that happen. But could it offset a specific tower really is a question for Bell with respect to what type of service that tower is meant to offset, whether it's voice or data. The intent, though, is to dramatically reduce the amount of towers being being installed by Bell really across Canada and to move towards small cell technology to fill that gap.
Any other comment? Councillor Marakis? Table.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, I think this is great moving forward. I know when we were at FCM, I sat in at the one of the discussions about broadband, and one of the big things that they were talking about was saying that this needs to become an essential service right across the country. And so it's great that here in Aurora that we're going to be doing this as a pilot, and we're moving towards this, eventually having that essential service for our residents. So I think this is great.
Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Anthony, thank you very much for the comments, because I remember we did this in an EDAC committee in 2015 when we were first invited to participate, and the committee had said, well, this is, should be received and recommended to council, and it was. So it's funny how these things sometimes work, and for the good, and very pleased to see it actually taking place. So when, I'm not reading the report, but when do we see this going, the first pilot project?
So Bell is looking to invest in the network both on the public side and on the private side. So they have existing partnerships with private landowners on Yonge Street, and we believe some installations have already taken place. With respect to the town owned or the town pilot project, they're hoping to begin installations in the fall. Part of this is assisting the town with some service challenges at some of our facilities, and that should initiate fairly quickly. And then as we begin to design and roll out in the other areas, particularly around Town Park and Yonge Street in the downtown area, we expect that to happen shortly thereafter.
Is it possible to identify what area is going to be the pilot area?
So the areas have been identified.
Okay.
In the report. Essentially, it's a series of town facilities. It includes our Joint Operations Center, investment in Aurora Town Hall, which would capture the senior center as well. Our Joint Operations Center transmitter would also catch portions of the Arboretum to improve service within the community Arboretum. The cultural precinct area that council has had some significant focus on, we've included as part of this pilot. So they have an interest in investing in transmitters around that area in order to improve service at the park, given it's a significant gathering point. There's also significant interest in Yonge Street as a corridor around the Chamber Street Festival and the amount of traffic that it generates. So the focus area will be on select town facilities, and then in the Aurora Promenade and specifically the Cultural District and the historic downtown.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments? All in favor then? Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. I just wanted to know what Anthony, there's it's recommended that we create a new reserve fund, and that anything that, for example, from this goes in it for economic development initiatives. Could you give me an example of what you might envision if we get enough money?
There could be a variety of projects that come out of that. Example could be investing in potential events to create revitalization in the downtown core. There could be potential opportunities to partner with groups to drive initiatives. Investment in business incubator space as an example. There's a variety of concepts that council has considered in the past that this may be a good fit for. But we don't have anything specifically that we've earmarked for these specific funds, so we've produced a fairly general recommendation on the reserve fund.
Thank you very much.
Michael? Councillor Thompson, sorry.
No problem. Just, and I'm not sure best directed to Anthony or our CIO, but this isn't the first time that we've taken the funds that are generated from a specific initiative and put it into a reserve. I believe we've done it with the microfit applications, that's in essentially a green fund. And if Anthony can just confirm that, not necessarily the name of the fund, but that we've allocated funds from initiatives before.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is absolutely correct. When we when council chose to invest in solar technology on rooftops, both through the microfit and the FIT contract. There was a reserve fund established to take those funds and reinvest in green, and so that reserve fund has been used to offset the cost from a traditional procurement to a green procurement, and again, it has been used recently. So
I'm fully supportive.
Calling a vote, all in favor? Contrary? That's carried, thank you. Item 8, Councillor Gardner, you pulled that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Approve as is.
Councillor Thompson, second.
Thank you. I would just like to congratulate Mr. Downey on getting this sponsorship from Canadian Tire. It's a decent amount of money over 5 years. So just if I could ask through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Downey, how did you do that?
Mr. Downey?
I won't take credit for this. We have a very talented person within our sponsorship, Louise Dwyer, and she is doing an excellent job. And so she goes out and knocks on doors and builds relationships. And this is something she's been working on for a long period of time, but she's doing an excellent job. And we now have all rinks, and this is our first aquatic facility, but we'll see what happens next.
Thank you, Mr. Downey. That's just great news.
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Johnny. Mr. Johnny, lately we've had a number of successes with regards to sponsorship, rinks, now the aquatic center. Is this sort of a change in policy or direction over the last number of years, or has the town always sought for big name sponsors but just not been as successful as we have recently?
Through Mr. Mayor, I think it started with us making a presentation with regards to sponsorship program. If you recall, we presented our Together With program to council, and that really was the genesis of us moving forward, and the framework was set for us to now go out and aggressively move forward with our sponsorship program. We were, prior to that, somewhat waiting for the phone to ring. We are now taking that program, we're promoting it, we have promotional materials, we are out there providing that to a number of different potential sponsors, getting back to them on a regular basis and building those relationships, as I said. So I think that's really where it started when we moved forward with the Together With sponsorship program, and it really has reaped some benefits.
Great. All in favor then? Contrary? That is carried. Item 9, the Theatre Aurora lease. Councillor Thompson, you pulled that? Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Marcus, pardon me. Being dyslexic.
I'll move as is.
Thank you. Second? Councillor Perry, thank you. Councillor Marcus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no issues with this. I'd like to commend staff on working with Theatre Aurora and coming to an agreement on what the lease should contain, which is great. My only question is I'm looking at this report, and I'm just wondering, for my information and for council's information, there's no lease agreement attached to this. I know that it's not normal policy possibly to do that, but I mean, like when I read the report, it says that all reference to Schedule A be removed. Well, what's Schedule A? I don't know what Schedule A is. And so I think it would have been maybe a good idea if that could have been given to council, so that way we would have some information as far as what we're actually looking at.
Mr. CAO, please.
Through Mr. Mayor, I've had this conversation with a number of councillors, and I agree that we could provide more information in these reports to give council a fuller idea. With respect to Schedule A, that was an old list of renovations that were contemplated by the first lease. and identified who was going to do what. It was, during these negotiations, it initially appeared as a sticking point, but when we actually did the full research and looked at all the things that have been done, it was agreed that that schedule was no longer relevant and that those repairs had been completed over the years. Some of the repairs go back, I think it was 10 years, and so none of the players were even around the table, so admittedly some of it we maybe couldn't nail down precisely, but there was agreement between the town and the theatre that schedule was no longer relevant, and that for the most part all of those contemplated repairs had in fact been completed over the term.
Councillor?
Thank you. That's all.
Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Nadarasny. So staff had requested occasional access to the theater for the delivery of town services, and Theatre Aurora was unable to accommodate. Just for those who are just kind of reading the report verbatim, it might sound unreasonable, but I know there's more background behind that than just them not being able to accommodate the town. Can you for everyone around the table, just highlight what that means?
Mr. CIO, please.
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor. Initially, the town set out in this renewal to try to use that facility. We are renting space right now externally for some programming for youth theatre programs through the recreation services. The initial response from Theatre Aurora was that that would be very expensive to accommodate, and we didn't quite understand how they were getting at the math and the cost of accommodating. And we sat down with them and we went through all the details. They gave us periods of time where they wouldn't have to get external space themselves for rehearsals or not entertain a rental that they have in the past with another party. And so when we narrowed down the list of available times, Mr. Downey went back to his team and tried to establish whether or not we could fit within that schedule. And because the intent was not to inflict an extra cost on Theatre Aurora, it was only to utilize the space more effectively and possibly save the town some money. When we looked at the schedules, that was impossible to achieve without either a cost to Theatre Aurora. And so Mr. Downey decided that it was better to just leave the status quo and to not use that facility for our own programming.
Councillor? Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did speak with Mr. Nadarasny about this. I find it difficult to agree to a lease that I haven't seen, and it makes me uncomfortable actually to do that because I don't know what's in it. But at the end of the conversation, I am confident that staff did the best they could. After all, it comes down to the taxpayers because we give this building to Theatre Aurora for no money. I think it's $1 a year, which is a sweet lease. But anyway, I have confidence that staff did the best they could in this circumstance, and I'm glad for Theatre Aurora. But I think going forward, when we look at various things like this, including the soccer club, that the taxpayers are funding to some degree. I think that we might want to have a new policy on this.
Thank you, Councillor. Calling the vote then. All in favour? Contrary? It's carried. Thank you very much. That finishes the items. There's no regional report. New business general information. I will start with Councillor Peary.
Not at the moment, no.
Councillor Kim.
I'm okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tom.
None for me, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Abel.
Mr. Mayor, I'm very concerned about the deal with Metrolinx, and our position is that, well, it's the province. I agree that Metrolinx is part of the province, under the province, but they cannot just come in as an agent of the province and come into our municipality and start putting signs up. There's no terms, and I've said this repeatedly, there is absolutely no communication, no collaboration. It's a transit issue. Metrolinx prides itself on communicating with regional transits and transit through the whole core of the GTA, Hamilton. Where's the region in on this? The region should be providing transport shuttles and looking for, why are they in our heritage area? That is a traffic calming area, and we're here to sit here. Well, I'm not sitting here quiet. I think we should be marching it to our MPP's office, letting them know right away that this is not appropriate, that Metrolinx should have some communication and engagement with the communities they're coming in and altering, with some timelines, if possible. We should be able to present some options to them and say, well, you know what, if this is what you need, there may be some other opportunities and people looking for that kind of money, $15,000 for an empty parking lot. But we're not any part of that process. And this, and I don't mean any disrespect to our CAO, but this, because he's only giving us information, but it's a province, and shrug, I can't handle that. I really want to take action, and I don't know how we're going to do it, Mr. Mayor, whether it's going to be up to a group of councillors to do it or whether you want to engage your staff, but we're sitting here, this is marching right down into our area. I'm not in favor, no one's in favor of it, and we know nothing about it. So I think before anything takes place, we should be properly informed and options should be discussed. And that should be our position, and we should write a letter and let them know this is where we stand, and send it to all the province, our MPs, just like the action we take with Councillor Maracas and Councillor Thompson. Let them know. That's our job. So the fact that it's a province and they can do as they please, that's not sitting. I really think that there should be a call for action.
Can I suggest, Councillor Abel, that you put a motion on the floor, that we take immediate, I'm going to use the word, work on corrective action or something like that?
Yes.
To give some direction.
Is that really necessary?
Well, I just...
implying that we haven't been doing anything.
No, but it makes it official. That's my suggestion. Second, Councillor Maracas. Comments or questions on that motion? Councillor Humphries.
To you, Mr. Mayor, I think it'd be a great idea to make sure that we have the letter that maybe comes from legal counsel, and that it attaches our bylaws, whether they ignore it or not. And also some of the suggestions that were made by some of the residents, the parking along Industrial is open all day long. Maybe we can get the revenue and put up some meters there for parking or whatever. Apparently it's open. Anyway, I think if we can do a really good job in terms of putting this together, how we're very displeased that we weren't engaged in the process at all. It's a heritage district. There's so many standards that go around that, and they've absolutely just bypassed that, made a deal, whatever. So that was one of my items, but I appreciate that doing that for sure. I think we have to do it right away. Sorry.
Councillor Maracas, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, you know, I look back and we were all in agreement, well, for the most part, when it came to Canada Post, that the consultation with them was just terrible, and they were, that was on the federal level. And, the only way to get things done is to speak up. And we spoke up at that time. And we got some consultation, we got a permit, they applied for permits within our town. So, we accomplished what we needed. So we need to speak up here. How they feel that they can come into our town and not consult with us, not even let us know. And not even, and this is even more mind-boggling, is that they don't even figure out what is actually going on within the town. What initiatives are we looking to do? Because, I did see the one sign going up, which was at the intersection, which directs people to turn left to go to the GO at Yonge and Wellington. Yet we are looking at possibly implementing a left turn restriction. Yet they're putting up a sign directing people to turn left. So did they not do their homework and look at what we're actually possibly doing within our town? And, As far as the signs, one thing I can think of that we can do to maybe, everyone knows how I feel when they feel that they can come in and just do what they want. And we can push back a little bit. Do they not have to adhere to our sign bylaw, through you to Mr. Ramuno? With signs that are on our property?
Mr. Muno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't think they're subject to our sign bylaw, but you do make a good point. If they have installed signs on our street, on our light poles, they certainly should have consulted with us. And I've already sent an email, and we'll have discussions with the MTO staff tomorrow and express our concerns over how they've proceeded with the parking and the signs without consulting, because they certainly didn't consult with me or my staff.
So, for me, I think personally, I say we go there and take down those signs until they start to consult with us. And when they consult with us and we come to an agreement, and if the agreement's going to be that the parking lot will be there, we'll put the signs back up. We'll work together and we'll come to that. But if we have the authority to take those down right now, I say we go do it. We take down those signs until we figure this out, because I think it's just incredible that they feel that they can just come in and do what they want without consulting with the town. I think it's embarrassing that council finds out about this from a resident. I think that's embarrassing to all of us. We should know this, and they should have came to us. So if we can take down those signs, I say we do it.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess through you to either Mr. Ramuno or Mr. Nadarozny, just to be clear, there was no contact with us with regards to the signage about whether they could or could not put them on municipal property or put them on our light poles. They just showed up one day and stuck them in the ground? Is that what I'm hearing, that we had no knowledge whatsoever to any of the signage?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, they have, no one at Metrolinx contacted planning staff nor building staff with respect to the signage.
Certainly, I think, it speaks poorly of their ability to work with other municipalities, and I would hope, and, I'm certainly supportive of the motion in front of us for corrective action, but I would hope that we've been working diligently upon this since it first reared its ugly head, and that we have been trying to do something to address the issue. And I think perhaps it'd be wise for us to give Mr. Nadarozny an opportunity to talk in a little bit more detail, because there's a lot of angry residents who are wondering, what are you doing or what have you been doing since this first came up?
Councillor Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just furthering those comments, I think as well, Metrolinx has a parking problem in the town of Aurora, and they haven't consulted with us at all. I know they're saying this is specific to the underpass, but we've had problems for years for many residents who have, we've had the town park parking issue, which we corrected, and the streets around the Metrolinx station, and we've got no consultation on the wider issue from Metrolinx either. So I really think that the message has to be sent, and I'm glad that Councillor Abel brought it forward, that Metrolinx should be consulting with us to correct this problem and not sneaking in the back door and not consulting with town. So I agree totally.
Councillor Marcus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be really brief. As one other resident pointed out in an open forum today, when they spoke about Henderson, and they said that was supposed to be temporary. We're hearing that this is supposed to be temporary. And as we can see, Henderson, with the truck route, has become full-time. So I think a lot of concern also is that even though that they're saying that this is temporary, what are the assurances that it will be temporary? Is there a time frame? Is there an agreement in place? We need to see all of this, and I think that we need to do our due diligence. And I trust that staff will do that, but we need to make sure that if this does go through, because I do appreciate the fact that it is two private enterprises making a business agreement, and I get that. And they can do that, but there are certain aspects I think that we need to look at. The fact that it's within the Heritage District, I look at it as far as what if residents decided to start renting out their driveways? What would happen? Would they just be allowed to do it, or would someone say, hey, you know what? It's within the Heritage District, and then next thing you know, it'd be at the Heritage Committee, and then in front of council. So why is this just allowed to go through, even though it's within the Heritage District plan? So I think they're, for me personally, this should have minimum at least gone to the Heritage Committee for at least for some consultation through them and to hear their thoughts within that district. And so if we can get some assurances as far as whether it's temporary, those timeframes, I think those are some of the things that the residents are looking for. And I think to have Metrolinx do that, I think would at least give us some thought of what's going on.
Councillor Abel, final word.
Mr. Mayor, as far as the church, we do not collect property taxes from them because they're a place of worship. But now they're an enterprise, and so if they're going to get into the commercial parking, then they should be assessed a tax. So they will, well, unless if it's a place for worship, but you can't be both. So if they're now parking lot and charging money, that's an assessment. So I would approach that as well, Mr. Mayor, at least investigate and bring that forward, and maybe, I don't know who we call, someone upstairs, but I don't know who signed the deal. But seriously, I mean, they are a place of worship, and as such, they are allowed to be tax exempt. But as soon as they start getting a commercial lease in there, I think that mitigates, I think that takes away from that exemption, and then they should be now in paying property tax on that.
Just calling the motion. All in favor, Councillor Gartner?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Hope I'm not giving you a headache. But that's a very valid point. Through you to Mr. Naderozny, I think that's a very valid point that Councillor Abel has. Could you comment on that?
I don't think it's fair to ask him. I think we can take it under advisement and look into it, but it's not fair to ask him to answer that question.
Okay. But I would appreciate you looking into it because you can't second blow.
Calling the vote. All in favor? Contrary? That is carried. Thank you.
For my second piece of new business.
Hold on. I need a motion to extend. Fury, Tom, all in favor? Contrary? Carried. Councillor Abel.
Mr. Mayor, I brought to the attention in July 18th a single elderly resident who got a water bill for $4,000. I copied yourself and Mr. CAO. I addressed it to Mr. Simonauskas. I received no reply until August 2nd when Mr. Simonauskas came back from holiday. I then sent another email, this one to Mr. Elliott, who was copied on the first one, and I did copy the CAO and the mayor again. This person, it's documented, normally uses 70 cubic meters of water and is now being charged for 10,000 cubic meters of water. So there's something wrong. I would just like someone to respond to my email so that we can best respond to our elderly, vulnerable, and there's nothing. I think there's something wrong when we can't do that. It's catastrophic to someone, and now they're going to turn off the water. She's getting notice and no answers. So she appealed to her counselor, and the counselor appealed to his staff and the mayor. I would like a response.
Mr. CEO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this one got caught up, as the councillors partially identified, in a bit of a vacation circle. The original email went to infrastructure. I figured then that that's where the answer would come from a policy perspective. I've since learned that this is purely a financial matter, and I don't believe what I've been able to determine so far without talking to Mr. Elliott, because he's on vacation now, but I don't think we have the kind of policy that I'm used to that handles these sort of situations and comes up with compromises. So it's on my list to take up with Mr. Elliott on Monday.
Mr. Dillman.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have spoken to both the daughters of this particular lady on this particular occasion. For a point in time, there was another person living in that property. I believe it was a grandson of the lady of the house. There was other circumstances that didn't come out in the email. I've just seen that email because I'm just nicely back from holidays myself. I will provide something to the CAO tomorrow on it, on my take on this whole particular issue. The property does have 3 different bathrooms. It wouldn't be unusual for toilets to be leaking and that sort of stuff. I think there definitely was a leak within the property, and unfortunately, because of the age of the woman, she wasn't aware of it. But as I say, staff, including myself, has spoken to both the daughters of this particular lady, and we're dealing with it. We have suggested that we send the water meter out for testing, and we have a policy that handles that sort of thing. So, but I will get in touch with the CIO tomorrow and discuss the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Dillman. Councilor Abel?
My last one, and this is minor, we were putting up signs for the Aurora Music Festival, and they were being taken down as fast as we can put them up. And it turned out that we had a very passionate staff that was saying, hey, I see the signs, I pull them. So, and it was remedied very quickly. I thank Mr. Stu Curtis, who found the person, and it didn't matter, it just stopped, and that was great. But why is there a Kelly Spa massage for $25 on Wellington? And I'm counting now 2 months, and nothing is being done. So I'm just bringing it to the attention because I don't think it's appropriate right on our John Westway, on our high school and Tim Hortons. My thought is if we do have people patrolling, maybe we could move that individual that was taking those signs over to this area. Just a thought.
Councilor Thompson?
Through to Mr. Nadarozny or perhaps our clerk, just want to know the status of the Traffic Advisory Committee. We did have a motion to move forward with it. Have we gone out to the public? Have we gotten names? Are we moving forward with it? Just because, you know, as we heard tonight, there's another issue that's come up. I've had other people talk to me about other ones. It seems to be that there's a lot of interest these days in, be it speed bumps, be it traffic, be it intersections, and I really think we could use that committee sooner rather than later.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I was following up on this earlier this week, and I can report that it's the next step would be to bring the terms of reference for approval to council before we would go out and actually advertise for the committee, and we expect to bring that in September.
Councilor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the meeting on May 24th, you said that in the past, councils have granted money to groups without going through the process. I was very surprised to hear that, and I did ask you to provide a list of groups that had received money without going through the appropriate process. It's 10 weeks now. Can I assume that there are no groups that haven't gone through the process?
I already gave you a list.
No, you did not.
Yeah, I did.
Did you email it to me?
No, said it in public.
Well, I don't remember that, so perhaps you
I'll look
can
it up
give it
and-
to me again.
I'll look it up and tell you again.
Thank you.
Councilor Maracas?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have one. It's to the comments from the resident in open forum in regards to Henderson. I do appreciate that the Traffic Advisory Committee will go up, but I think that we need to do something a little bit more sooner. And I have talked to Mr. Simonovskis many times as far as this, and I'm just wondering, can we not just put up a sign that says no heavy truck traffic allowed? Can we not just do that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I could ask a council direction to that effect?
I mean, if it takes council direction, I'd be happy to put forward a motion that we don't allow heavy traffic, truck traffic on that street.
Second? Okay, speakers? Councilor?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for bringing that up, Councilor Maracas. It was my second item for new business. There is another resident who's working aggressively on that exact issue, and they're working with our traffic advisory manager right now. And there's all types of steps being done, but I don't think we've seen an update on that. So just wondering if we have an update, and can we just add those concerns to that initiative going on right now? Do we know what that is, Mr.
Simonovskis?
What the status is?
Yes, certainly through Mr. Mayor, this issue did come up through council, and staff are doing traffic counts and speed monitoring, and then a report would typically come back to council recommending appropriate actions, and that is in process. However, what I'm hearing is a more immediate response, but there is a report planned for this fall to respond to that request.
And Councillor Humphreys, I fully understand that, you know, let's get that report with the other initiatives, but I think we can all agree that the heavy truck traffic should not be on Henderson. So I think it's an easy solution for us to put a motion, put a sign up, and say that truck traffic is not allowed on that street, as it once was. And so I think that's just a very simple solution for us.
Councillor Tom?
Thanks, I'll be quick. I agree totally. I just think that there should be some sort of notice given so that we're not ticketing people, you know, like there should be some notice that we're putting up the signs and there's going to be a change so that truckers aren't ticketed immediately. So they give them time to stop and adjust. Because I agree, I think if it was temporary, supposed to be temporary and it wasn't, maybe the town dropped the ball somewhere or someone, I don't know, whatever, but
Mr.
I agree with
Simonovskis, is there a process for that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would like there to be a process. I would like to bring a report back with the information so that there's an understanding of what we will be doing, what we can do, and what the steps would be. I would like to avoid sort of knee-jerk movements and make changes that may result in other impacts that I'm not aware of at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. Calling the vote on Councillor Marakis' motion. All in favor? Contrary? Carried. No, that finishes new business general information. We'll go to the reading of the bylaws, please. 5881-16, 5887-16, 5888-16, 5889-16, 5890-16, and 5892-16. Someone put those on the floor, please. Councillor Tom, thank you. Second. Councillor Peary. Comments or questions on any of those bylaws? All in favor, then? Contrary? That's carried. May I please have a motion to go into closed session for those three items listed on the screen? Councillor Peary, Councillor Humphreys, all in favor? Contrary? That's carried. Thank you. We will be reporting out on those. Thank you, staff.